Thanks. Welcome back. Sorry about the chopping and changing. I presume you're aware that the UNHCR has made statements quite recently, and which was picked up in the Myanmar Times, that the time for large-scale refugee return into Burma, particularly from the eastern part of the country, is not yet ripe. Are you familiar with those comments?
No, Senator, I'm not. I haven't seen those reports.
I wonder if it might be useful. Can I table a copy of this for you, just so that you can get a bit of a sense of what I'm after? And thanks. Maybe while you're waiting to get your hands on that, if you could just give us the government's present policy on refugee return. And as you're probably aware, I'm particularly interested in the eastern part of the country for these purposes.
Do you mean refugee? Could you explain what you mean by refugee return in the Myanmar case? I mean, in the Australian area, that's a matter for the Department of Immigration, but in this context, could you explain?
Oh, sorry. No, I beg your pardon. So there's at least 500,000 people displaced from Burma onto the Myanmar onto the Thai side of the border. Australia has done some very good work funding some of the aid organisations, health clinics and so on, and the camps that operate in Thailand. And I'm asking you for the government's policy on whether, as the UNHCR believes, it's not yet time for large-scale transition and movement of people back into the country.
I'd have to take that on notice, I think, Senator. The issue of refugee returns is a matter for largely for other parts of the agents of the department, and so for me, I think it'd be better to take that on notice. We could give you a
written
answer.
I'm not, and I hope you're not misunderstanding. I'm not talking about repatriation of people from Australia, but people who are presently stranded in Thailand who might be encouraged to go home. And I'll give you the context. Right before the change of government, former Foreign Minister Bob Carr made what I believe is a serious error in judgment in proposing, that got Senator Brandis's attention, in defunding the Maytao Health Clinic in Mae Sot, and this is one of the key institutional supports for primary health care, both on the Thai side and the Burma side of the border. We worked with Minister Carr and his predecessors and yourselves over a period of 2 or 3 years to change Australian government policy on cross-border aid, which we eventually succeeded in that effort. And right at the point where that policy change had been made, Senator Carr decided that we wouldn't be funding the clinic and the various other services anymore. So and that decision, I understand, after having spoken to Dr. Cynthia Mong, who incidentally won the Sydney Peace Prize last week, is that it's the Australian government's view that it might be time for all those people to return back into Karen and Kachin state. So that's where I'm getting to, I suppose. A funding decision was contingent on somebody in the department or someone in the minister's office believing that it was time for all those people to go home. The UNHCR disagrees. I'm trying to get your view.
Well, I'm certain, Senator, I think the government's view on this would be that if there is a possibility for people to return voluntarily, they should. We continue to support the refugee centres, though through a range of different NGOs. I don't think we have cut our overall funding to the refugee support. In fact, I think that continues. And I think this evening our colleagues from the aid side of the department could perhaps provide you with more information about our support for refugees, but there's certainly a continued support for refugee voluntary return, not forced. So there's certainly no decision in support of that people now should return home involuntarily.
Okay. Well, I'm pleased to hear that, and the only condition I guess I'd ask you to keep in mind is that closing down the only substantial healthcare support for people in that part of the country significantly reduces not just quality of life, but it would significantly reduce the ability of people to stay in those refugee camps at all. Now, if Australia is defunding the Maytao Clinic, and that's the one I'm specifically interested in, and some of the ancillary and associated services, that makes it very difficult for those people to stay where they are.
We'll have to finish that, Senator, because of the time.
Could I just put one? I thought I was going to get...
over time, actually.
Are we? Okay.
So Senator Edwards.
Thanks, Chair.